Hello, I am so excited to support you today and to be talking about this subject. I am so excited to support you today and to be talking about this subject. Today we are talking about what to do about feeling not good enough, not lovable enough, not worthy enough, not successful enough, not insert what the hell you tell yourself enough. Because we've had a lot of comments and questions based around this big whopping limiting belief of not feeling enough, whether that's um, enough, enough love, and like not feeling lovable enough, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy enough, not feeling successful enough, not feeling like you are enough as you are. So there can be slight variations to this depending on what your life is like and the stories that you tell yourselves. But the underlying belief really is not feeling good enough, and whether good enough about anything, full stop. So we're going to talk about this today. Hello. And I also realised that I don't introduce myself properly for some reason. I'm Rebecca Lockwood, your neuro-linguistic programming trainer, hypnosis trainer, and breakthrough coach trainer. And we're going to be diving into what to do about not feeling enough, good enough, successful enough, worthy enough, lovable enough. Okay, so there are a couple of things that we need to think about when it comes to the beliefs that we have. And the first one is to recognize and acknowledge that this is a limiting belief. This is a belief that you have that is limiting you from creating a behavior in your life that will support you to gain outcomes and results in your life that you want to achieve, whatever they are. So this can be in business, in life, in relationships, in your career, in motherhood, in fatherhood, in sisterhood, in being an auntie, in being an uncle, in being a wife, a mother. This is universal, so it applies to everything. It doesn't matter which part of your life this applies to. It quite often, if you have a belief of not being enough, it often applies and streams through everything in your life. For example, if you don't feel good enough to have a successful business that you're working towards, this can also have an impact in your relationship with your husband or your spouse or your wife or your partner. This belief can then stream through everything. So I want to just address where these beliefs come from and how our beliefs are formed, so it might give you some kind of context to understand how they're created. Because the first thing that we really need to be mindful of in this situation is understanding how your mind works. Really understanding how your mind works and where this belief has actually come from. So when it comes to beliefs, then how our mind works, we have, if you've been through the training, Change Your Mind, Change Your Life, you will already know this, which is fantastic, but it's always helpful to recover it and to dive into it even deeper, because I don't know about you, but sometimes when we listen to things, even when we hear them for the second time or the third time or the fourth time or the fifth time, we hear different things, or our internal representation of what we're seeing and hearing can be different. Now, that's a funny story how I found NLP, actually, neuro-linguistic programming, because I had a business previous to this and I worked in a sales career as well alongside it. And I was listening to the CD Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins on repeat for a full year before I heard him say the words neuro-linguistic programming. I am not even joking. I listened to it on repeat for a full year before I even picked up the words neuro-linguistic programming. It's crazy, right? I heard it when I needed to hear it and in the context that I needed to hear it in. So how our mind works then is our beliefs and our behaviours, and I'm going to explain to you how they're created. So things happen outside of us, like events happen, and that doesn't have to be like a big event or anything like that. Like me sat here talking to you now is an event that's happening in my life. It's an event that's happening in your life. Just like I might get a phone call and that's an event that happens in my life. So when I say event, I don't necessarily mean something big or magnificent. I just mean things that happen, right? So events happen in our lives, and then we then take in the information based on the event that we're experiencing. But what we do is we delete, distort, and generalize the information that comes into our brains. And the reason why we do this is because there are millions upon millions of pieces of information that are flying around not necessarily in our awareness, but it will definitely be in our subconscious awareness. And there's so much information going on all around us. But if you can imagine it like this, imagine yourself reaching out and grasping a certain amount of them. So if you could imagine all of this information around you is like straws just dropping around you, and if you reach out and grasp a handful of them straws, you might have, there might be thousands of straws flying all around you, and you might have grabbed 130. Right? So that's how much information we can take in to our conscious awareness and our subconscious awareness at any time. Okay. So what we then do is we delete, distort, and generalize that information based on our beliefs, our model of the world, our values, our memories, our behaviors, our previous behaviors, our decisions that we've made, how we've seen other people act around us, our parents, especially within our imprint period between the ages of 0 to 7, where we're like sponges and we just soak everything up, which creates our own version of the world, which is different for every person. So what happens then is our model of the world is created from our memories that have happened in the past, from our decisions that we've made and decisions that we've seen other people that have been key influences in our lives, our values, our beliefs, and we then filter that information into an internal representation in our brains, which might be like a picture in your mind or played out like a movie, or it might not be visual at all, it might just be subconscious. What then happens is we then project what we believe out into the world, and that creates our behavior, which then gives us our results and gives us our outcomes in life. So if we have a limiting belief of not being enough, that's how it's been formulated. It's been formulated based on your beliefs, your memories, and your decisions that have happened in the past, or the decisions that you've seen other people make in the past. I identified back in 2016 when I trained in NLP that I had a really big limiting belief of not feeling like I'm good enough, not feeling enough, this exact one, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy enough, not feeling successful enough. And I realized that belief, that limiting belief was limiting me from achieving the things I wanted to achieve. It had caused me to self-sabotage drastically. Now, it caused me self-sabotage in my business. I had a very successful business. I was winning business awards. I was on the biggest growth accelerator in the world. I'd been approached by Dragon's Den to go on Dragon's Den, and things were going amazingly on the outside. But I'd come to a point where I told myself that I didn't want the business, and I closed it down. And the reason why that happened was because of the limiting belief that I had subconsciously. I wasn't consciously aware of it, but I was acting in accordance with it, and it was creating my behaviors. And so I self-sabotaged everything that happened in that business, everything that I'd worked towards for 3 years, because I opened the business when I was 22, just turned 22. And that all happened because of the limiting belief of not being enough. I wasn't consciously aware of it. If you'd have come to me at that point and said, you don't think you're good enough, I would have been like, get lost. I'm focused, I'm successful, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm doing everything that I thought I should be doing. Because this belief was so far embedded into my subconscious mind, it created the behaviors in my life that caused me to self-sabotage. And so that's really how our mind works. So when we have them beliefs so embedded so far into our mind and into our subconscious mind, we act in accordance with them, whether we're aware of it or not. It's why you see so many relationships breaking down, and it's why people cheat on people, because they might be in a space where they're so happy and so supported that they just don't believe that they're worthy of having it. And unfortunately, that can lead to self-sabotaging behaviours. So that is how our mind works, and how our beliefs are formed. And the next thing, really, the second thing, is to really identify the deep-rooted belief. Like, what is the deep-rooted belief? So in my example, my deep-rooted belief was not feeling good enough. Didn't feel good enough. Didn't feel good enough to have a successful business. Didn't feel worthy enough to have created all the success that I had in my life. It manifested itself in self-sabotage and in postnatal depression and OCD. And so I wasn't aware of it at the time. It was only until I studied neuro-linguistic programming that I became aware of it, and I was able to change my thought patterns, belief patterns, and behaviors. So the second thing then, to identify the deep-rooted belief, is really about understanding where may that belief have come from? Like, where could it have happened, and where could I have picked it up from within my life? So I may have already touched on this, but in my case, so the example that I'm giving you in my life was I had the belief of not being good enough. And I realised that this belief came because when within my imprint period between the ages of 0 to 7 is when we really soak up the information that's going on around us. And within that period, I watched my mum work so hard and still not be able to support us. And no matter what she did, no matter how hard she worked, it still appeared that everything she did was not good enough. And so that created this real deep subconscious belief within me that it didn't matter what I did, I still would never be good enough to be able to make it work, make it whatever it is, whether it's in my relationship or my life or my business or my career. I never subconsciously believed that it didn't. I believed that it didn't matter how much I did and how hard I worked and what I did to support myself, I still wouldn't be good enough. Okay, which led to the behaviors, which led to the outcomes, which gave me my results. Okay, so the first thing then was understand how your mind works, which we've talked about. The second thing is really to identify the deep-rooted belief. So is there a time in your life where you may have picked up some belief about not feeling enough, not feeling good enough, not feeling successful enough, not feeling worthy enough, not feeling lovable enough, not feeling good enough, whatever it is, insert whatever the crap is that you tell yourself, because that's what it is. Is there a time within your life that you can identify, or can you identify what that belief is, whether you're consciously aware of the negative self-talk or whether you're not conscious of the negative self-talk? Maybe it feels like exhaustion or heaviness or just negativity. So yeah, second thing was to identify the deep-rooted belief. The third thing then is to understand what is the root cause of this belief the first time you ever felt not enough, not good enough, not worthy enough, not successful enough, whatever it is for you. What was the first time you can ever remember feeling this way? So for me, in the example that I'm giving you of the situation with my mum and seeing how hard she worked, it created this deep-rooted belief within me that it didn't matter what I did and how much I did of it, I still wouldn't be good enough. It still wouldn't be good enough to create the life that I want. And so I was able to identify, after doing some work and digging around within my mind and my subconscious, that within my imprint period of 0 to 7, that was my model of the world. That's what I saw. I created the beliefs that my mum worked really hard and went out and worked all the time and was never there at home. I realised that it didn't matter how hard she worked, we still seemed to struggle and things still seemed to be hard. I also created the belief of it's just not enough. Like, whatever happens, it's just not enough, which led to our memories. So that all created memories within my subconscious mind within that period of time. And that then created the root cause. The first time I ever felt not good enough and not enough was maybe when I was 7. And I remember my mum just working so hard and really seeming to struggle. So that was the first time. So the third thing then, just to recap, was what is the root cause that you can remember, the root cause of the belief that you have that's limiting you, the first time that you ever felt it, the first time that you ever felt not good enough, or not worthy enough, whatever the rubbish is that you're telling yourself. Then what we can do is we can really start to unpick that and understand, okay, well, thinking back now to when I was 7, well, I was 7 years old. Is it acceptable for a 7-year-old to not feel enough for some silly reason? No, it's not. Does it make sense that I would feel that way at that age, being so innocent and young and not really knowing the world? Well, no, it wouldn't. Okay. So it's really about identifying and understanding, is this acceptable? Like, is it? Is it acceptable for me to still be acting out that behavior now when I'm in my late 20s? Would it be acceptable? And when I worked on this myself, I was in my early 20s. So the question would have been, is it acceptable for me now in my early 20s to be still acting out a behavior of a belief that I created when I was 7 years old that actually made no sense, really? Like, it's just because of the way that our brains work and our brains are wired, and that's what's causing the behavior. Does it make sense now? Well, no, it doesn't. Now, I'm taking you through these steps to support you, and hope that this will really, really support you and help you immediately. And if you follow through with these steps, it will support you. The biggest thing that you can do to support yourself is to really, the NLP framework and the neuro-linguistic programming framework does support you to completely rewrite them beliefs and rewrite them behaviors and the neural networks that you have in your brain. But the steps that I'm taking you through now will still also help you immediately. So the last thing that I want to talk to you about, if you watched the video yesterday, you may have heard me talk about this. And I love this method because it's a really quick, easy way for you to be able to go away and implement into your life straight away. It comes from the Huna spirituality, and it's called Ho'oponopono. And the reason why I love this so much is because it's just really lovely, it's really sweet, and it just supports you to release the energy around what it is that, around the belief that you have that is no longer serving you. And so once you've understood how your mind works, number two, you've identified the deep-rooted belief that you have. Number three, you've understood what is the root cause of the belief, the first time you ever felt not good enough. And number four, we've then got the Ho'oponopono framework that we can use, which will support you to move forward and release the energy around them beliefs. So what you do is you write down the belief, maybe I'm not enough, in the example that I've used today, and you just say the words. You just acknowledge it, feel into it, like allow yourself to feel how it feels, having that feeling, and just say the words. I see you, I forgive you, I release you. And even just saying them words just makes you feel so much more relaxed. I see you, I forgive you, I love you. And just allow. And when you ever hear yourself having any negative self-talk or anything that goes on in your mind that is limiting you, just allow you to say them words. I see you, I forgive you, I love you. I forgive you, I love you. And that is it. It's as simple as that. So as always, I'm going to be live in the group, or if you're listening to this on the podcast, every day this week. So if you need anything from me, please do reach out and ask, pop a comment in the group, ask any questions that you may have. I really do hope that this is helpful. This framework has supported me, the neuro-linguistic programming, the law of attraction, the Huna work. It's all the things that I'm going to be sharing with you on this journey. So I really do hope it has supported you, because it has supported me to completely transform my life. You know, as always, I'm Rebecca Lockwood, your neuro-linguistic programming trainer, hypnosis trainer, and breakthrough coach trainer. If you want to join the free training, Change Your Mind, Change Your Life, and you've not yet joined us, the link is above in the description. And you can also book your free breakthrough call with one of the team, who can really chat through how you can get support going forward. So have an amazing day, ladies, and I'll be live again tomorrow.